Hello again everybody and welcome back to the channel. If you're new, please do click on that subscribe button down below, and if you're a regular viewer, subscriber and member, a very warm welcome back on board to you guys too. As you can see, we're in the Fly UK A320neo and we're heading into Salzburg in Austria. Lima Oscar Whiskey Sierra for the code, and we're going to be flying a tricky circle to land procedure, pretty much the minimum visibility that we can do this in today. So let's have a quick look at the charts. And we're coming in via Tittig, as you can see, at or above 6,000 feet, down to Whiskey Sierra 508 at or above 6,000, and then into that Salzburg VOR, which is just there, and we have to be at or above 4,000 by that point. From there we're going to be heading south, and we're configured for this ILS runway 15 approach, and we need to make sure we've got the 109.9 frequency in there on the top of the chart. Bear in mind the airport elevation of 1,411 feet. And from the Salzburg VOR we're going to be heading south 175 degrees to then intercept the ILS approach for runway 15. And we've got the 410 SINDB frequency there, which we're going to need to use for our circle to land procedure. So we'll make sure that is all in the RadNav page. Flicking over to that circle to land then, we're going to be flying in on the ILS approach, and once we get to that 410 SINDB, we're going to be braking off, heading of 125, or a track of 125 degrees, out almost towards the river that we can sort of see on the charts here, going through. And we're going to be then turning a bit of a teardrop procedure round back on ourselves to fly this final approach, heading of 334 degrees, land on runway 33. And there's some data there on the plates there for the circling procedure. 3.5 nautical miles we've got to fly on a heading of 125 out before we're turning back on ourselves. And I missed approach information there too. Category C aircraft, so MDA is 2,550 foot, and our runway visual range of 3,700 metres, which we've got to date. So into the aircraft then. And we're pretty much making good progress now. You can see we're inbound Tittig as it is currently. We're holding at 6,000 foot, and I've already activated approach phase. Prior to this, so I've gone ahead and entered all our destination data, including the current weather that we've got at the moment in Salzburg, and the MDA of 2,550 foot there, entered into the box. On the RadNav page, I've got the Salzburg VOR programmed in. Got the runway 15 ILS with the course, and we've got SI, which is that NDB, pretty much just north of the runway by about 1 mile, programmed in too. And additionally we've got the Salzburg NDB, which is right at the very top end of the ILS frequency up here, programmed in as well. So we can go ahead and activate VOR1 and ADF2. And we're going to hold 6,000 until we get towards this next waypoint in 10 miles. And then we're going to start to bring the aircraft down slightly, following everything that's written on the charts. Turn terrain mode on, and icing as well is currently in place, so I've got all the icing and things switched on, and all the lights as required as well. You want to make sure your ground spoilers are armed. And it's a fairly decent runway length today, so we can go with low. And we're holding that green dot speed till we get a little closer. Let's bring that in a little bit. Be sure to check out all the other video tutorials I've got, including multiple other tricky landings into Ajaccio and a few other places across the world. And let me know how you get on if you give this a go. Let me know how you get on in the comments too. QNH is set. I haven't set it on a standby instrument though, so let's get that up to date. There we go. And we're just waiting to cross that waypoint there. We'll go flaps 1 and start to slow the aircraft down. And we'll also commit to a descent down to 4,000. We'll make use of track FPA as we get a little closer as well. Into the clouds. If we're coming in from the UK, it's more likely we'll be coming in via this Tittig arrival route, or Badit as well, which is sort of north east of Munich. So it depends on the route of the day, depends on how we're going to actually approach the airport itself. But it's likely one of those two approaches will be used. So we can start a bit of a descent down to 4,000 foot. We want to be level at or above 4,000 by the Salzburg VOR. Which is coming up in 5 miles. Probably good for us to turn the LS modes on, and you can see we're just below the glide slope slightly, which is a good sign, and do on flaps 1. Here comes the rain as well. Salzburg's off in the distance, you can sort of see the approach lights down there for runway 15. What we could do is arm lock mode. We might be cleared to fly the ILS approach, and we're kind of flying over the VOR now shortly anyway, so we could just go ahead and arm lock mode, and we'll just let the aircraft line itself up, shall we? There's the airport. Turn terrain mode off for the time being because it's going to get very distracting on the screens. Flaps 2. It's around about 1.5 miles for the actual ILS distance where we're going to be breaking off. Let's turn ADF VOR1 to ADF1 instead to track that SI NDB. And just to save it being confusing, we'll turn ADF2 off as well. We're on approach phase. You can see at the moment we're getting 351 degrees at 12 knots for wind. Our MDA was 2,550. So we're just going to have that in the altitude box ready. Set 2,600 is probably a better bet. And let's go gear down. You can use track FPA mode at this point, so let's get rid of the flight director. I've already done cabin check, but it's not registered that, so let's do it again. Once we get to 2,600 foot, it should be around about the same sort of point where we're going to be breaking off for a heading of 125. So in that instance, what we'll then be looking to do is turning into the part of the valley there over the city. This is a particularly difficult one because it's a continuous sort of teardrop turn, as you saw on the charts, and it's all going to happen very quickly at this point. Flaps 3. 5 miles. You actually get quite close to the runway itself as well for this procedure. About a mile away from touchdown. When you break off,
above.
I want to hold that minimum altitude, 2,600. Let's turn LS mode off as well because it's going to get a little confusing for us otherwise. Turning left now, braking off.
Minimum.
Let's use LS actually for the time being. So I'm trying to look for our reference points that are on the charts down below. Kind of hard in the evening as well. Adds to the challenge of it, I guess. But the road back there, that road there is pretty much where you want to break off. And it was heading of 125. Track, which is kind of what I've got there on the nav display. We're going to continue flying. You can sort of see the river there actually, so as the river starts to bend back on ourselves and head off in that direction, that's where we then start to fly this teardrop. Let's go full flaps now. The airport doesn't make it easy for us. Probably a little wide at this point. It's telling me ice not detected, so let's turn those off. Quite fiddly here because you can't actually see really where you're going, so you're having to use the charts and kind of look for those reference points, as I was saying there. It makes it easier if you're looking for where this river then starts to bend back out past the nose. Which is kind of here. We've been manually flying this whole procedure ourselves so far, trying to keep it level at least. Maybe drop below 2,600 a tad, but I'll try my best.
1,000.
And let's start to turn and descend with it, shall we?
1,000.
Trying to look for the airport. And this is where the viewpoints become a bit of a pain in the backside for us. There's the approach lines. Got one red, two red, so some easy stuff. Rate of descent slightly. Still turning round. And the charts show that you're kind of rolling wings level just before the approach lights. So bring that nose up a bit, we're still losing altitude a tad. 352 at 10 knots is the wind. Correction involved just towards the end.
100.
down. Decel. Fast thrust. Missed that junction, you can see the next one coming up. Let's get rid of the spoilers. Bring them flaps in as well, shall we? Fire up the APU. So there we go, quite a tricky one, very low visibility. You just want to keep a continual turn as you make your way around to runway 33. And if in doubt, just go around. As always, these become a little bit more difficult if you're using live weather and there's variable winds, gusts and so on and so forth. Let me know how you guys get on in the comments below. Be sure to check out Fly UK as well. flyuk.aero is the website. And be sure to check my live stream schedule and join us when we're live in the very near future. Thank you all for watching and I'll see you soon.